I think the sensible decision, Kenzie, would be to use the squad and utilise the players within the squad, but I'd be tempted not to. I'd be tempted to go with the same team because it was such an all-round performance against West Ham. Obviously an excellent result and a really, really good performance I mentioned, collectively and individually. I think there is some question marks. I suppose, will the manager go back and change the shape? No, now they're playing at home, will that then that will influence in terms of his selection? Can Theo Walcott play 2 games within this short period of time? I think that will be interesting to see. Will Broja again, will he perform when you've got Shea Adams available, Adam Armstrong available? Again, that will influence the change of shape. Elanusi played centrally and played very, very well. But again, the change of shape potentially will influence that he won't be able to play there. So there's lots of options. There really, really is, which the manager will be very, very pleased with. But I think the confidence will be high, the belief will be high, and I think Southampton will take the game to Tottenham. So I'm really interested to see this. Like I say, the sensible thing to do would be to utilise the squad because it is a strong squad with lots of quality in it. But I'd be very tempted to go with the same, and then maybe have some planned substitutions. Maybe after 60, 70 minutes, maybe enforce some substitution, bring some fresh legs on and make the change then.
Adam, I'm sure you enjoyed that 3-2 victory up at West Ham, and I suppose pending any late rulings out of players, are you expecting Southampton to line up the same way?
Yeah, it was a great win, Steve. I really did enjoy it, and I'm with Dean. I kind of feel like in normal circumstances, I feel the manager probably at this time of year would roughly have in his mind kind of a couple of changes that he would be expecting to make. Obvious one, like if you look at the team from West Ham, would probably be Theo Walcott. Can he play 2 games in a few days? Don't know. And that would be an obvious, like almost premeditated change. Ralph would look at them and think, Walcott against West Ham, that's a good matchup. Then I'd change him out for Tottenham. However, I think it was such a good win, good performance, important win, and there's a little bit of spark about Saints again at the moment. Just that flicker is coming back to them now, I feel. That I wonder, like Dean, if Ralph might be tempted just to go with the same team. He likes to field a winning team again, and I just think that this is probably the opportunity to do it, unless there's obviously what he's seen in training, there's anybody who's like out on their feet basically after the efforts of Boxing Day, then I think I'd stick with it. And I completely agree with Dean. A couple of premeditated substitutions or 55, 60 minutes if you're worried about Walcott or similar. See how they're going and make those changes. But I think there's a really, really strong case today for going with the same team, because otherwise I think you begin to look at, yes, you could make some changes, but I think you start to second guess yourself then and think, oh, well, now we're playing Tottenham. Do we change the shape? Do we make changes like that? And I actually think that after West Ham, if you can stick with it, because the players are clearly feeling good. So let them go out again and try and get another win.
Yeah, as you said there, Adam, the players are sure to be feeling good, feeling confident going into this one. And as we've said, it was a fantastic win on Boxing Day. So before we go any further, let's remind ourselves of the best bits from that match.
Here we go then at the London Stadium. Walker-Peters, edge of the penalty area. Cuts in onto his right, edge of the box. A shot comes in and it's a goal! Southampton have scored at the London Stadium.
Saints looking very comfortable.
Although that's a really poor ball across the back, and they might be in trouble here as his forward Vlasic up against Salisu. Vlasic edge of the penalty area. He drilled it. Good save by Forster, and it's gone out for a corner kick on this near side. That was poor. It looks like it's going to be 2 changes at half-time for West Ham. A corner on the far side. Jared Bowen will take this. He'll be left-footed in swinging. Everyone back for Saints in that penalty area. It's under the crossbar, and it will be headed towards the back post. Antonio heads in! Up to Ward-Prowse, who flicks it up to Broja, and Broja's got a chance to run at the West Ham defence, and he's still going. Broja into the penalty area, he goes down. Saints still have it, they try and flick it past Fabianski. It goes out of play on this near side. Is it outside the box?
I think he stumbles, but he takes him down inside the box.
Here we go.
If he's going to give it, it's got to be a penalty.
Whistle to his lips, it's a penalty. The Southampton captain steps up and scores! Bowen into the box. Right channel onto his left foot, into the penalty. Ben Rama equalises. Ward-Prowse is over this. Got Salisu on the edge of the box as Ward-Prowse Flicks it in, header towards the back stick, and it's in! Saints have retaken the lead, and that is full time here at the London Stadium.
There we go, highlights there from Southampton's 3-2 win up at West Ham. Now, Dean, Southampton's first goal from Moy Elyounoussi came after being brave in possession. I think there was 15 passes that led to the goal. Can you talk us through it?
Well, like you say, Steve, it's a brilliant team goal. If you look at it, fantastic from Southampton. The setup of the team is brilliant to start with. The awareness of the players, their technique on the ball, like you mentioned, the bravery and to protect the ball, to be patient in possession. 15 passes away from home against a team like West Ham that are pressing in this situation is very, very impressive. And then it's the discipline, James Ward-Prowse being in an advanced position, Livramento being in an advanced position, Kyle Walker-Peters attacking centrally instead of wide. It's just a very, very good team goal, really understanding. You look at that sort of goal, that's the sort of goal that you would do on the training pitch, potentially unopposed against mannequins, where the players would be in the right positions. But it's brilliant from Southampton, it really, really is. It's a fantastic finish at the end. Brilliant touch, and then that finish is really instinctive. And we spoke about Elyounoussi, his performance, and maybe him being centrally his preferred role and in his best role. But that structure in the setup, the patience, the bravery, the technical ability on the ball, the awareness of the players where other players are around them, the switch of play, which worked really, really well in the first half. You look at that, there's 2 switches of play during that goal, during that process. So a fantastic goal, some individual bits in that were great, but collectively as a team, fantastic. A really, really good start to the game, and it just flowed through the game today. It was just an excellent performance and a brilliant 3 points.
It really was a fantastic 3 points indeed. And one man we really should highlight is James Ward-Prowse. We always seem to talk about him, but deservedly so. He scored and assisted in that game, didn't he, Adam? That's actually his first assist of the season, but he's now scored in back-to-back games. Just how important is it and how good is it to see him contributing with both goals and assists?
Well, it's fantastic, Kenzie, because he is the linchpin, really. He is the captain. He is the leader of the team now. And I think we've been quietly critical, I think, of him this season at times. He perhaps hasn't hit quite the heights that he has in the previous couple of seasons. And I think it's fair to say that. But I think we're talking about a guy here whose standards are incredibly high. So I don't think at any point we felt like he's had a bad season or he's really even played a particularly bad game. But perhaps his level has just dipped below the kind of exceptional level which he was producing week in, week out. But he feels a bit like he's kind of got a bit of spring back in his step now. He's kind of getting back to it again. I think that's his all-round game. Yeah, I know people look at the goals that he delivers, and of course they're important. People look at the assists he's delivered, of course they're very important. But it's more than that with him. It's his all-round game. It's his confidence on the ball, because he is that guy who, for Saints, is very, very good at kind of doing some of the things that you don't always notice, linking the defence and the attack very, very well. He's very competent at doing that. And that is kind of a role that he plays so well. I know the flashy kind of quarterback style passes catch the eye, but it's the little things he does that I think are important to Saints as a unit and as a team. And those are the things that I think you can see coming back into his game again with a little bit more quality, a little bit more confidence and belief in what he's doing. And then the end product of that, I think, is the icing on the cake, which is the goals and the assists, which are beginning to flow as well. So it all bodes very well for Saints, and also for James himself, of course, with his England ambitions as well.
It certainly does. Now, Dean, we know how highly you rate Armando Broja, and you were full of praise for him after that West Ham win. Although he didn't get on the score sheet, it was a rather impressive performance from the young lad.
Unbelievable performance, really, if you look at it. Like you say, Steve, he didn't get on the score sheet, didn't really have many opportunities at goal, but he was pivotal to the performance. He was pivotal to Southampton being able to play that shape. If you look at the highlights, the way he holds the ball up, the way he's really reliable when the ball goes into him. He was really strong, really powerful, and his all-round game was fantastic. It really, really was. Always looking to play forward, always looking to get himself turned around and and attack the defenders. I mean, he was a nightmare to play against, and he caused all sorts of problems for Dawson, caused all sorts of problems for the West Ham defenders. And fantastic, in the second half, his willingness to run in behind. And the thing that's always surprised about me is his physical size, but the pace he has and the power he has. You can see from the penalty that he gets away from the West Ham defender. Dawson knows he's going to lose the race. They kind of come into contact, but with the pace he's going, and he's still able to hold him off and stay kind of in control to be able to win the penalty is fantastic. And his all-round game was very, very good. And for such a young man, he possesses such a threat to any defender, and I'm really enjoying him, watching him play. I'm really, really impressed. I think him and Shea Adams could form potentially a fantastic partnership together, because they both have those attributes where they're strong physically, they're both good runners, powerful runners, and they can cause defenders problems like they really did against Brighton in the last home game. So very, very impressed. And like I say, he had a major role in playing why Southampton had such a good performance, because he was so reliable. And as a centre forward, as a manager, that's the biggest thing you want. Yes, he'll be judged on his goals, but reliability is when the ball comes into him, to be able to bring other players into play at such a young age is really impressive. So very good performance.
Given by VAR, Adam. West Ham fans really didn't seem too happy with the decision, while some Saints fans felt that Dawson should have been shown the red card. What did you make of it?
I actually think that by hook or by crook, they probably came to the right decision in the end. I feel like it was right. I mean, when you actually look at what happened, Dawson's obviously tried to take him out earlier. That's what's tried to happen. He's tried to push him out of the way, basically. He's taken his free kick outside the area and yellow card, basically, to stop him. Broja's too quick, frankly, for him, too strong, and just sort of bounces off him. And then Dawson sort of falls into him, and it's kind of not really deliberate. He's only falling down because he's missed the first foul that he attempted to commit, which was kind of one of those take a yellow for the team. So I think they actually reached the right decision in the end, actually, all round. But what I actually quite liked about it, what I enjoyed, is one of the things about VAR, one of the criticisms and one of the fears that I had perhaps when it first came in, was that you lose some of those debates and talking points in football because kind of a machine would decide. But this is a prime example of it. You've got the technology there, and there's still a debate. It hasn't actually really cleared it up. Decision's not black and white. It's not like an offside where they draw the lines. We're still arguing over whether this is a penalty, even with VAR having been there. And I think that though some people will say, well, is that a failing of VAR? I think actually it's a nice thing, because it keeps the debate within the game, and I think that's a really healthy thing, and I think it's something that fans enjoy as well as we do, obviously, to discuss the rights and wrongs of the big decisions. But I think in the end, on that one in particular, for me, it was the right decision.
Absolutely. Well, we will be bringing you the team news in just over 10 seconds time. Lots of you giving us your thoughts on who you'd like to see start against Tottenham here at St Mary's today. But the wait is now over. We can bring you the starting 11 for Southampton, and I can reveal it's a very, very changed side to the last one we saw at the London Stadium. Lots of changes, and it does look like a possible change of shape as well. So let's run through that starting 11. In goal, Fraser Forster, Carl Walker-Peters, Mohamed Salisu, Jan Bednarek, Roman Perro and Jan Valery make up the defence. In the midfield is our captain, James Ward-Prowse, who of course has now scored 11 goals from direct free kicks. Alongside him is Ibrahima Diallo, and then we also have Stuart Armstrong, Shane Long and Adam Armstrong. So from that, obviously you can see we've gone for 5 at the back, assumably. Tino Livramento misses out altogether. Roman Perro comes in to fill that void. Also Oriol Romeo dropping to the bench, with Ibrahima coming in to the midfield, and Adam Armstrong and Shane Long assumably partnered up top, and Armando Broja from the bench, and Nathan Tella also back on that bench after overcoming his isolation period. So looking at that substitutes bench in full then is Willy Caballero, Danel Semeyu, Thierry Small, Oriol Romeo, Nathan Redmond, Moy Elianusi, Armando Broja, Theo Walcott and Nathan Tella. Dean, we'll come to you first on that one, because it's safe to say this isn't the starting 11 we were expecting. Plenty to unpack there. Where do you want to start?
If you give me 5 more minutes, probably have half a chance. No, like you say, Kenzie, it's a little bit of a surprise. I think maybe the selection is a consideration of the performance and the effort that the players put in against West Ham, and potentially the importance maybe of the Newcastle game coming up in 3 or 4 days, to maybe be able to rotate the squad and rest the squad. You know, with Stuart Armstrong coming in, Adam Armstrong, it gives them a chance to get minutes under their belts, to get themselves up to speed, probably potentially for the new year, which I think is important because they're both very important players. A change of shape, you know, Valerie coming in, potentially where would he play? That's interesting. Cole Walker-Peters at right back, Pero at left back. Again, Diallo comes in for Romeo, which I think is interesting, because I think Romeo, if he's not carrying an injury, is such an influential player and so important to the Southampton team. But Diallo has the ability to play that role, and will have fresh legs. And the attacking threat, like you say, Adam Armstrong and Shane Long coming into the team. So, you know, and Shane is that experienced player. He will be ready. He came on against Crystal Palace, you know, a couple of weeks ago and did a fine performance in that role. So there's no problems with him coming into the team. So interesting to see how it unfolds. Interesting to see what the shape is. But I'm sure the manager's got his reasons. And it looks like Adam touched on, maybe this was planned. I don't think this many changes and the change of shape is just an instinctive decision. I think it's a planned decision over this period, over this Christmas period. And I think maybe more eyes on the Newcastle game. Not overlooking this game, but maybe more eyes on the Newcastle game.
Yeah, it certainly does feel that way, doesn't it, Adam? And of course, this time of year, this is where the squad depth really comes into play. What do you make of this starting 11 today?
I think, I 100% think that the Dean's hit the nail on the head there. This is a team that's been picked for Newcastle rather than for Tottenham, really, I feel. This is a case of a big win against West Ham. You look at, if you're Ralph, maybe has looked at this and thought, where frankly are we more likely to get 3 points, from out of Tottenham or out of Newcastle? And in terms of the status in the table, obviously a win against Newcastle, winning against Tottenham is great, but winning against Newcastle is massive, because that's obviously a huge stepping stone towards securing another season in the Premier League. So I think Ralph has weighed that up by the looks of it and decided, okay, I'm going to take some of the guys out of the firing line for this one. We play again in 5 days. Let's effectively have them play effectively weekend, and take them out of the midweek action. Where that leaves Saints for today, in terms of actually having to deal with this game and to deal with what looks like a very strong Tottenham side that they are facing, remains to be seen. It's going to be difficult. They obviously have some freshness, which is to their advantage. There are definite positives with some of those guys, as Dean rightly said, particularly for me, Stuart Armstrong coming in and getting minutes under his belt, because he's such an important player for Saints. But it's in a way, it's a risky tactic when you isolate today's game. If you look over the course of the 3 matches, if Saints were to beat West Ham and Newcastle and lose to Tottenham, you would say that's good. And so that's very good. So in that case, you look at it and say, Ralph's made a wise decision. If you lose to Tottenham today and then you don't beat Newcastle, if you're the manager, questions are asked as to what you're up to and why you broke the momentum that you picked up at West Ham. So like all these things, it's a brave decision from Ralph. And one thing we love about Ralph is, whether you like or don't like some of his decisions, he's not afraid to make them. He's a brave manager. And and so it's going to be very, very interesting, I think.
It certainly is. Very interesting team selection indeed. And of course, we invite your thoughts watching along at home. Please do send us in your comments and let us know what you think of that starting 11. A few comments already coming in to us. Those of you looking forward to kick off here at St Mary's. Paul on Twitter has said, can see a rainbow going across the stadium this morning. Hopefully there is 3 points at the end of it. Fingers crossed, Paul. Vic now on YouTube. Hello. He says he's going for a 2-1 win today. That would be very nice indeed. Henry Phillips, supporting loyalties are split in the household today, so it's husband versus wife. Hopefully the wife is the loser by the end of the afternoon, or it could get heated in that household. And Paul on Twitter has said, oh sorry, I've read that one out, you can see the rainbow, and he's going for a big win as well. So feeling confident, I think, for fans.
Definitely. Well, Ralph has shown his squad depth this afternoon, but he does have a chance to add to the team in just a few days' time, Adam, with the January transfer window opening on January the 1st. How do you assess the squad at the moment, and do you expect any new additions to come through the doors here at St Mary's?
I think unless anything changes dramatically, Steve, in the next few weeks in terms of like a major injury, I'd be surprised if they added to the squad. So it's a struggle in January to get any value for money. Obviously, the good clubs don't want to let their better players go. If you're Saints, is there an area of the squad that you feel like we have to add right now? Probably not. If you are looking longer term and you're talking about the ambitions of kind of doing better than just worrying about finishing outside of the bottom three, etc., and really looking onwards and upwards, yes, obviously there are players that need to come in, and there are frankly players that in the squad that need to be replaced. But doing that in January, don't think that that's very likely for Saints, to be honest with you. They're also not in a situation where they're desperate. They look in a decent position. They look to me like we've felt all along, like they're gonna stay up, and hopefully they'll do better than just stay up. But they definitely look good for staying up. So would you go wild and spend a lot of money on a kind of overpay for a player just to get somebody in January? No, leave that to your Newcastles of the world, because they're the teams that have got to try and buy their way out of trouble to a certain extent in January, and Saints don't have to do that. So I would be surprised. Other areas of the squad to improve? 100% yes. But January is a really difficult time to do it. With Saints not desperate, I would genuinely be surprised if we saw any additions. And if we did, it might just be a kind of a loan as a cover or something like that.
Well, Ralph has said that he's not expecting to do any business in January. Dean, in your opinion, would you say the squad does look okay as it is right now?
I think the squad looks really healthy in terms of quality and in terms of depth, really, the numbers that Ralph has and the options that he has. I totally agree with Adam. I don't expect too much, just because January is such a hard market anyway. But in this climate as well, with a lot of uncertainty around football clubs in terms of finances, I'm not too sure. A lot will happen in general, really, in January, if I'm totally honest. But, you know, the loan market potentially could work if someone became available. We've seen Ralph do that before and how it's worked. You know, Cole Walker-Peters is a prime example of that, when he came in on loan and then performed very well and the club ended up assigning him. So potentially that could happen. If you would talk to me players that could strengthen the squad, I think Ralph would, if he's honest, would probably want a natural left back if possible. You know, Cole Walker-Peters has done a fine job there, but having that balance I think could be important. And then, like I mentioned, you know, the central midfield pairing of James Ward-Prowse and Oya Romeo are brilliant players. They really, really are. But if one of those gets injured or two of them gets injured, suspension, it does weaken the Southampton team. So an area that Ralph potentially may look at. But I don't expect anything to happen unless, you know, God forbid that, you know, Southampton have to sell a player or two, or an offer comes in that the club just can't refuse, and then that may change things. But if you're looking at the squad at the moment and the way they're performing in particular, I think it's been impressive in terms of performance, and I think they're in a good position.
Well, Southampton look like they're going to line up with 5 at the back today, Adam. This fixture last season ended 5-2 to Spurs. What do you remember from the way Southampton defended during that game?
Well, I mean, they played with a remarkably high line that day. I know Ralph came in for some criticism for that after the game, and kind of came out and sort of denied that they did do that. But I think the evidence was in the goals they conceded, really, and they were at times flirting with conceding even more from playing that way. It was a risky tactic that they seemed to employ that day. And frankly, it didn't work. Obviously, Tottenham were just too good and were able to kind of break the offside trap and obviously breach it multiple times to win. Saints kind of stuck with that for a tiny bit more, but then reverted to kind of the previous way that they were playing, and kind of the established 4-2-2-2, which I always think for Saints is their best formation. Yes, they're adaptable to play in another formation, which is really important. But I think the 4-2-2-2 is where the players have learnt to play under Ralph over a sustained period, and where they feel most comfortable, where you can see they instinctively understand what they're meant to do. So the change of shape and a kind of a change of tactic, which we saw against Tottenham last year, just didn't really pay off, obviously, at all. So, yeah, the high line is something that you have to play and execute really, really well at this level. Because if you don't, the players like your Sons of the world and Harry Kane, that you don't get a reprieve if you give them a chance to score. And that's what we saw. They were clinical last year, and thankfully we haven't seen too much of that kind of risky high line defending since. And I'm hoping that we don't see it today either.
Fingers crossed. Well, I'm going to break up this conversation momentarily to bring you an update on the team news and some of the changes we've seen Ralph make today. We can now confirm that Tino has been rested due to a slight knee problem. We can also confirm that Shea has tested positive for COVID, and the rest of the changes are simply squad rotation. So that sheds a bit of light on the number of changes we've seen today. Now, Dean, let's come back to the opponents. Spurs haven't actually played a Premier League away match since the 7th of November, which seems like an incredibly long time ago. They've actually only won 2 away games this season as well. Does that mean it's a pretty good time for Southampton to be playing them?
Potentially, Kenzie, if you look at it from a stats point of view. But I think, Tottenham are a good team now. They're a vast improved team. They look fitter, a lot stronger, much more organised. They're an attacking threat now. I think Conte's had 7 Premier League games, which he's unbeaten in. I think they've kept 4 clean sheets in that period as well. So you can see the change. Harry Kane is back in form, which is such a huge threat. So I'd be more thinking of Southampton, really, where Southampton have been very strong at home this season. Only lost once to Wolves. There's the game at Brighton where I think we should have won the game. The Leicester game potentially could have won the game as well. So that 4 more points from the home record as well. 3-4 clean sheets in that period. So I'd be more concentrated on what Southampton can do and how well they've performed at home this season. But Tottenham are a vastly improved team. So this is going to be a real test today. It was going to be a real test anyway with Southampton's strongest team out, shall we say. But now with the squad rotation, maybe a change of shape, this is going to be a challenge today. But I'm sure the players will believe that they can get something out of it. And I think it just shows evidence of what an important result it was against West Ham, really. And if Southampton can get anything out of this game today, I think that will be impressive.
Have been strong at home this season, are unbeaten in their last 5 here at St Mary's, Adam, and a win today could move us into the top half of the Premier League table. So how good would it be to end the year on a high like that?
Well, I mean, it would obviously be incredible, especially with all the changes. If Saints were to go and get a win today, and when you look at, we've said it for so long, the table is so congested. You are a couple of good results, especially when you're playing back-to-back games. So you're a very short period of time away from being either sucked in or jumping massively up the table. And when you think 9th place is only 3 points ahead of where Saints sit now, that just goes to show how tightly packed this table is. I'm with Dean. I think I completely agree. If Saints to get anything, if they got a point, that would be a fantastic result today. A win obviously would be almost unbelievable given everything that's going on. But yeah, Saints they're doing okay, this season. I think you've got to say that. They're not there. There's been some tougher moments already this season, but overall they're doing a pretty good job. We didn't expect, I don't think, this season for them to be challenging around 6th, 7th or anything like that. What we wanted was a season where we weren't looking over our shoulders the whole time, and then whatever we got from there was a bonus. We were in that mid-table pack, and that's exactly where they are. They're nicely clear of the relegation zone today, and that today is halfway through the season after today's game. So that's a fair time to really judge, I think, where they are. And we're not really worrying about relegation at this point in time. And we are looking up the table, and we are talking now, as you asked there, Steve, how high can they go? What would 3 points do to push them up the table into the top half? So that's what we wanted from this season. And I think that's a nice positive place for Saints to find themselves at this time of the year, kind of regardless of what happens today. You don't want to get a really heavy defeat or anything, but I think if there's an encouraging performance, and even better if they can put something on the board, then you'll be absolutely delighted at finishing off 2021 in that manner.
It would certainly be a lovely way to see out the year, wouldn't it? Well, Dean, it's that time of the show where we come to you both for your score predictions. It is a brave team that Ralph has selected today, so which way do you see this one going?
I think it'll be a really interesting contest. Like I've mentioned, Tottenham are a top team now, and they've put a really strong team out, so they've shown their intent. They've probably had, they obviously have had a longer recovery period from their last fixture, so will that have an impact on the game potentially? But I think if Southampton could be defensively strong today, we know Southampton create chances, they create opportunities, and they'll be brave and they'll take the game to Tottenham. But I think with the shape, and if they can be defensively strong, I think a draw would be a very, very impressive a result. And you never know what's going to happen in football. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 today. I think it will be a very good game, but it needs to be a very good team performance. But a 1-1 draw today.
Well, Adam, we just spoke about Southampton ending the year on a high. You could end the year on a high as well, sitting on top of our Saints Live score predictions leaderboard. How do you think the game's going to go today, and what are you saying for the scoreline?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have to do as much to end the year on the high on the prediction league. Saints probably have to do today to get anything out of this game. I'll be honest and say I think when you look at the teams, I think that this looks to me like a Tottenham victory. Honestly, I hope Saints can prove me wrong, and I think, like Dean said, that how they are defensively is really going to be the key to this, because as he rightly said, we know that going forward they're probably going to cause some problems. They'll probably create a couple of chances at least, I'm sure. But I think when you look at the team that Tottenham have put out, when you consider, as Dean rightly said earlier, they are a different team now, Tottenham, and they're beginning to gel and look good again now. And they've got some quality players that are playing today against a much changed Saints team. I think I've got to be honest and go for a Tottenham win. So I'll go for a 3-1 to Spurs.
Okie dokes. Well, Adam, Dean, a pleasure to have you with us on the show. We look forward to speaking with you after the match. Thank you for your insight as always, and thank you for your company, for watching on Saints Live. A few of you just sending in your final thoughts ahead of kick-off at 3 o'clock today. James has left us this comment. He says he hopes to see Small or Semeyu to come off the bench today. The Asian Gamer on YouTube says, welcome back Stu Armstrong, great to have him back. And Lawrence on Twitter, good management from Ralph to rotate. Why risk players 48 hours after Boxing Day when they can be rested for Newcastle? Always great to hear from those of you watching along at home. Well, as we've mentioned, a place in the top half of the table is on the cards for the Saints today, but Tottenham will be vying for a place in that top four. Both teams will be hoping to go into the new year on a high, so there should be plenty to talk about on the final whistle, so make sure you join us after the game.
Enjoy the game. See you then.